Attraction does not begin where most men think it does. It does not begin with your jawline, your income bracket, or the car you drive. Those things may register, but they are not the starting point. For a woman, attraction begins in her nervous system. Before desire has room to grow, her body asks a quieter question: am I safe here? Most men were never taught this. We were taught that women respond to status, to power, to visible markers of success. And to be fair, those signals can open doors. But opening a door is not the same as being invited inside. A woman may notice your success, your physique, even your confidence. Yet if she senses volatility, emotional unpredictability, or the subtle pressure of needing something from her, her body closes before her mind even explains why. Safety in this context is not softness, it is not passivity, it is not being agreeable to everything she says. Safety is emotional steadiness, it is the absence of chaos, it is the feeling that your presence does not demand performance from her. When you speak, your tone does not spike with insecurity. When she disagrees, you do not tighten. When there is silence, you do not rush to fill it. You have likely seen the opposite: the man who tries hard to impress, who leans forward too quickly, who scans her reactions for approval. He may be successful on paper. He may even be charming, but beneath it is tension. And tension reads as instability. A woman may smile politely in that dynamic, yet her nervous system remains alert. Certain older men create a different experience entirely. When they enter a room, there is no rush. Their attention is measured. Their movements are unforced. They do not need the interaction to go anywhere specific. That absence of urgency changes everything. A woman feels that she can relax in their presence because he is already relaxed within himself. This is the hidden dynamic. Desire grows in space, not in pressure. And space only exists where there is psychological safety. When a woman senses that a man is grounded, that he is not trying to extract validation or prove worth, her body softens. Only then can curiosity turn into attraction. This is why the common narrative about looks and money feels incomplete. Yes, physical appeal matters. Yes, financial stability signals competence. But neither replaces emotional steadiness. Without that steadiness, success can even amplify discomfort, because power combined with instability feels dangerous. As men age, some unconsciously cultivate this steadiness through experience, through loss, through the humbling realities of life. Others never do. The difference is not age itself, it is regulation. And once you understand that attraction begins in a woman's nervous system, you start to see that what truly distinguishes certain older men has less to do with what they display and more to do with what they transmit. If safety is the foundation, then nervous system regulation is the mechanism. This is where the conversation moves from philosophy into physiology. A woman is not analyzing you in a clinical way. She's reading rhythm, pace, tone, and reaction without conscious effort. Her body is tracking yours long before she forms an opinion about you. Most men misunderstand dominance. They equate it with intensity. Louder voice, stronger opinions, faster escalation. They believe that decisive energy must be sharp and forceful. In certain environments that works, in business, in competition, in crisis, but in attraction, intensity without regulation feels unstable. Think about emotional pace. When you respond too quickly to everything she says, when your laughter is slightly too loud, when your reactions spike high and drop fast, it creates unpredictability. Unpredictability triggers alertness. Alertness blocks softness. She may stay engaged out of politeness or curiosity, but she is not relaxing into you. Now consider the opposite, a man who listens fully before responding. His voice remains measured even when he disagrees. If she challenges him, his breathing does not change. There is a subtle delay between stimulus and response. That delay signals control, not suppression, but choice. His nervous system is not hijacked by the moment. This is what calm containment looks like. It is not coldness, it is not emotional flatness. It is strength without leakage, the ability to feel without reacting impulsively, the ability to hold tension in the room without scrambling to resolve it. Women are highly attuned to this because biologically and socially they have had to be. Throughout life, they assess threat constantly. A raised voice, A sudden shift in posture, a sharp change in tone. These cues register immediately. Even subtle insecurity can read as volatility. A man who needs validation may not appear aggressive, but the need itself creates pressure. Pressure feels unsafe. When an older man has learned to regulate himself, something shifts. His movements slow slightly. His eye contact is steady but not piercing. He does not fidget with his phone to escape silence. He does not over-explain his success or defend his choices. His nervous system remains anchored. That anchoring communicates more power than any display ever could. This is why intensity is often mistaken for attraction. Intensity can create adrenaline. Adrenaline can feel exciting. But excitement is not the same as safety. And without safety, excitement burns out quickly. Calm containment, on the other hand, allows attraction to deepen because it gives her nervous system room to settle. For men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, this becomes a defining advantage. You have lived through financial stress, relationship breakdowns, career transitions, health scares. If you have reflected rather than hardened, those experiences have trained your nervous system. You have learned that not every emotion requires action, and that is where maturity begins to reshape masculine presence. It is no longer about proving capacity, it is about demonstrating control over it. When a man can hold emotional weight without spilling it onto the room, he stops performing dominance and starts embodying it. There is a subtle but decisive shift that happens in a man who has stopped trying to prove himself. It is the shift from performance to presence. And most men do not recognize it because we were conditioned to believe that effort creates desire. That if you show enough value, speak with enough confidence, display enough success, attraction will follow. Performance has energy. It is sharp, outward, strategic. You highlight your accomplishments at the right moment. You calibrate humor. You steer conversation toward your strengths. None of this is inherently wrong. In fact, many men build their early success on it. But performance carries a hidden message. It says, notice me, approve of me, validate what I am presenting. Women feel that message, even when it is subtle. And when a man needs to be seen in a particular way, it creates pressure. She is no longer simply experiencing him. She is being recruited into confirming him. That dynamic flattens polarity because it places her in the role of evaluator rather than participant. Presence is different. Presence does not attempt to manufacture an impression. It does not rush to fill silence or angle toward applause. It is grounded identity without advertisement. A man rooted in presence is not hiding his strengths, but he is not arranging them for display either. If the conversation moves toward his work, he speaks about it plainly. If it does not, he does not force it there. This is internal gravity. Gravity does not announce itself, it simply pulls. When a man is comfortable with who he is, including his limitations, he stops scanning the room for confirmation. His attention becomes steady rather than strategic. That steadiness creates space. And in that space, attraction can form naturally because there is no manipulation shaping it. You may recognize this in your own life. There was likely a period when you chased outcomes harder. You tried to be sharper, fitter, more impressive. Perhaps it worked at times, but it also created fatigue. Because maintaining a performance requires constant monitoring. How am I being received? Is this working? What should I say next? Presence removes that internal noise. It is quieter, slower, more deliberate, and paradoxically more powerful. When you are not trying to extract interest, your interest becomes more meaningful. When you do express desire, it feels chosen rather than needy. This is where grounded identity begins to generate polarity on its own. Not through theatrics or posturing, but through the contrast between your self-containment and her emotional fluidity. And that self-containment is what allows depth to emerge without turning into either cold distance or uncontrolled exposure. Many men in midlife find themselves caught between two extremes. On one side is stoicism that borders on emotional isolation. On the other is a kind of unfiltered vulnerability that feels more like spilling than sharing. Neither creates sustained attraction. Emotional depth is not about how much you reveal. It is about how well you contain what you reveal. You were likely taught that strength meant silence. Handle your problems, do not complain, do not burden others. There is dignity in that. But when stoicism becomes impenetrable, it creates distance. A woman may respect your composure, yet still feel that she cannot reach you. Respect alone does not generate intimacy. And without intimacy, attraction becomes surface level. The cultural pendulum has swung in the opposite direction in recent years. Men are encouraged to open up completely, to process everything out loud, to display emotional transparency as proof of growth. In theory, this sounds healthy. In practice, it often becomes emotional leakage. Processing unresolved pain in the early stages of connection can shift the dynamic from attraction to caretaking. And when a woman feels responsible for stabilizing you, polarity erodes. Emotional depth sits between these extremes. It requires awareness of your inner world and the discipline to share it selectively. If you speak about a difficult period in your life, you do so from a place of integration, not from active confusion. The emotion has been digested. There is reflection behind it. You are not asking her to solve it or soothe it. You are simply allowing her to see that it shaped you. This kind of controlled openness communicates strength in a different way. It says, I have felt deeply and I can still stand firmly. There is gravity in that. When you can acknowledge loss, regret, or failure without collapsing into it, you demonstrate resilience without pretending invulnerability. That balance creates both safety and intrigue. She senses there is depth beneath the surface, but it is not chaotic or overwhelming. You may have experienced the opposite in past relationships. Perhaps you stayed guarded and were later told you felt distant, or perhaps you opened too quickly and felt the energy shift, subtle but unmistakable. These are not signs of personal deficiency. They are signals about calibration. Attraction thrives when emotion is present but regulated. Selective transparency allows tension to exist without dissolving it. It invites closeness while preserving mystery. A woman can feel that you are emotionally available, yet she also understands that your center does not depend on her reactions. That combination strengthens trust while maintaining polarity. And when emotional depth is expressed without leakage, it does more than spark attraction. It lays the groundwork for something sustainable, where safety and desire do not compete, but reinforce each other over time. There is a narrative that grows louder as men age. It tells you that your value is decreasing, that youth is the currency of attraction. That energy belongs to the young, and relevance fades quietly after 40. If you listen long enough, you begin to measure yourself against a version of masculinity built on speed, novelty, and surface appeal. But attraction is not a single dimension. Youth carries physical sharpness and raw momentum. What it rarely carries is consolidation. Consolidation is the gathering of experience into coherence. It is knowing who you are without rehearsing it. It is having tested your impulses enough times that you no longer confuse urgency with importance. As a man moves through his 40s, 50s, and beyond, something either fragments or solidifies. Some men become reactive to aging. They chase proof that they still have it. They compete with younger men in arenas where youth naturally dominates. That tension can be felt. It communicates resistance rather than authority. Other men integrate their years. They stop negotiating with reality. They accept the lines on their face, the lessons in their body, the recalibration of ambition. Acceptance in this sense is not resignation, it is alignment. And alignment generates a different kind of presence. When a man trusts his own judgment, because it has been tested repeatedly, he does not seek constant reassurance. When he has navigated financial cycles, relationship endings, disappointments, and recovery, he does not panic at temporary discomfort. His nervous system has memory. That memory becomes steadiness. This steadiness is rare. In a culture saturated with distraction and comparison, emotional regulation stands out more than physical perfection. A man who knows his limits, honors his commitments, and speaks without exaggeration creates psychological safety without trying to. He is not selling an image. He is living inside a defined identity. Women sense this consolidation. It feels anchored. There is less volatility, less posturing, less hidden agenda. Desire does not fade in that environment. It often deepens because it rests on something stable. Safety is no longer a preliminary test. It is embedded in who he is. And when safety is constant, attraction can expand without fear of sudden collapse. Aging, then, is not decline unless a man refuses to integrate it. When he does the internal work of reflection rather than denial, his energy becomes more focused, not weaker. He wastes less on proving and more on choosing. That discernment is attractive because it signals autonomy. Safety combined with grounded depth is not luck. It is cultivated authority built over years of facing reality. And for the man willing to consolidate rather than compete, age does not diminish his presence. It refines it into something rarer, calmer, and far more compelling than youth alone ever was.